Hello and welcome back to my newest video, my MLP Reviewing Marathon. Well, this one was probably really fucking obvious. Yeah, there's probably no surprise here. Rainbow Falls is my least favorite Season 4 episode, and my second least favorite episode of the whole show. Now, technically, this should be my least favorite episode, since I find more flaws in it than Dragon Quest. I mean, give that episode credit, at least that's a good premise. But however, I still find that worse, mainly due to more personal reasons. But if you want to hear me talk about that episode, then watch my review of it. As always, I'll leave a link to my script in the description. Which, also, another thing, with how long this is becoming, I might have to split it up into 2 parts. Because this is even longer than my Dragon Quest script, so yeah, 2 parts maybe. Without further ado, I gotta get going. Let's get started. Now, as I stated earlier, this has more flaws than Dragon Quest, and there's so many problems that I honestly don't know where to start. So, I guess I'll begin with the characters. First is Rarity, Applejack, and Pinkie Pie. They contribute nothing and are slightly flanderized, and could be written out of the episode completely, story and entertainment-wise. Next! Okay, then there's Bulk Biceps and Fluttershy. Oh god, these guys have so many problems with them in this episode. Okay, so Rainbow Dash picked these two to be her teammates in this relay for the Equestria Games. And pretty quickly, the episode drops the ball. First, Fluttershy really does not belong with this. I mean, wouldn't this be part of her fear that she'd be deathly scared of? I mean, isn't this hell to her? I mean, so let me get this straight. A pony who is too scared and too shy of singing in front of really small crowds is perfectly fine with doing something more strainful on her in front of thousands of ponies in pretty much the Olympics for ponies. I mean, what sense does this make? I mean, she would be more fit cheering on the sidelines and competing in front of 1,000 fucking ponies. Seriously. She can barely fly enough to even compete in this. I mean, this show has shown that she is capable of flying very well, but it doesn't appear that she'll be able to reach that level again. And then there's Bulk Biceps, whose presence brings a new set of problems to the damn table. Now, from first looks, he would seem like a better candidate for this type of stuff, since he looks more like an athletic type of pony. Of course, if it isn't that obvious in his appearance. However, that becomes very mute since it shows that he can barely fly. Wait, what the fuck? I mean, so, let me get this straight. You mean to tell me that someone who was able to get in the Wonderbolts Academy and was able to reach a 10.0 Wayne power in Hurricane Fluttershy, which pretty much means he's one of the best flyers in Equestria, can barely get off the ground? What the fuck? That's not only a plot hole in the episode, but that just brings up continuity errors to this episode. Also, why the fuck did Rainbow Dash pick these two to compete with? I mean, doesn't Ponyville have, like, this large selection of Pegasi who would all be better than them? I mean, yes, ponies can only compete in one event, which is pretty much the only explanation we get for this. But the episode only uses that for 2 ponies. It doesn't explain the whole fucking population of Pegasi in Ponyville. I mean, it doesn't help that this episode goes to great lengths just to show that these two shouldn't be here. I mean, some have said this is a self-composed challenge by Rainbow. I do not buy that one bit. I mean, that just makes Rainbow Dash really irresponsible in this whole shit of a deal. To put it simply, everything about these characters being here causes so many problems and is also contrived and forced. And now, we get to the Wonderbolts. Now, after watching this episode, I ended up wondering, why the hell does Rainbow Dash want to be with them? Okay, so a quick summary of what they do in this episode. Pretty much, they try to get Rainbow Dash to abandon her team and her town and get her to fly with them after Soren breaks his wing. Even after he pretty much says he's okay, they still abandon him because they think it'd be easier to win with Rainbow. Yes, some friends that guy has. Yet, he ends up coming back to them in the end, and they ended up being good guys in the end. Good, whatever. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, in the whole scene towards the end where they're supposed to realize that what they were doing is wrong, their whole characters pretty much do it complete 180 very fast, really immediately. Like, which also just shows that their characterization in this episode has really bad and has absolutely no weight to it. I mean, overall, they're just really dirty, underhanded assholes in this episode. Oh, that could have been just some other random teen who was there, and the episode would have been better, since this wouldn't be ruining the Wonderbolt's reputation and making it more apparent that Rainbow really needs to find a better purpose in life than fly with these shitheads. I just spent this whole time talking about the characters. I mean, I'm almost over halfway to my time limit with this iPhone recording thing. Ugh. Now, characters aside, does the episode have anything left for it? I mean, is it entertaining? Fuck no! None of the jokes or gags in this episode are funny at all. I mean, one big part of that comes from the dialogue. To put it simply, through this whole episode, it felt like Corey Powell was really constantly insulting my intelligence. This is some of the worst writing the show has ever had. I mean, most of the dialogue is incredibly stupid and really repetitive. Like having characters recap scenes that we just saw 5 seconds ago and repeating information that we could have already interpreted. And an example of the bad dialogue comes from the scene where Twilight tries to convince Rainbow to not join the Wonderbolts and their team. And instead of saying the right choices of saying, like, Rainbow would be abandoning and disappointing the whole fucking town, that coming there would be pointless, many other reasons that were pretty obvious, she goes with the worst things possible to say. And since the scene is also trying to be moving, it's probably the biggest case of insulting my intelligence that the show has ever brought up. I mean, this episode also tries to have a focus on, like, subplots that have pretty much nothing interesting to them, and gags and jokes and pretty much other things that aren't funny. I mean, the only reason that they're there is to help this shitty argument, and that is not a good thing to happen. I don't know anymore. And then there's Derpy. Oh boy, Derpy. Everybody freaked out when she came out, pretty much just going, "Oh my god, it's Derpy! Oh my god, best episode ever!" And I pretty much went, "Why are you here?" Really, this is probably the worst possible way that you could have brought her back. I mean, take her out of the episode, or replace her with some random background pony, and the episode would barely change at all. I mean, this just goes to show that how much Corey Powell was just using Derpy as pretty much a band-aid to pander to and distract the fans. It's like she looked at last roundup and saw how Derpy took up all the attention in that episode, and pretty much said, "Hey, maybe I can do that with this episode." Oh my god, this is just terrible. This also brings up another plot hole this episode has. If it was this easy to find a replacement for Rainbow Dash, then why does she still go with these two who can barely fly? It makes no sense at all. Now, I'm about to run out of time here, so I'm going to save the rest of this for a second part, so to be continued. Hello, welcome back for part 2, and I feel like all the energy is just, it's been sucked out of me from how angry I've gotten at the first part of this review, and never done that before, all the raging, so I feel a little exhausted from this. Now, from after everything I've said in the last part, you'd think that I would want to be able to forget this episode. Believe me, I really wish I would be able to, but it's not going to be that easy. I mean, why not? Well, hell, all people seem to remember from this episode is just Derpy and Griffin's in the background for 3 seconds. That's what people focus on, and I don't really give a shit about any of it, since it doesn't really matter at all. Well, I don't think I'm ever really going to be able to forget this episode, mainly because This episode is part 2 of the overarching plots of Season 4, the Equestria Games, and the key, Rainbow Key chest thing. You'd think that because of being in these plots, that this episode would have more effort put into it, and wouldn't be so lazy with its writing. It just feels like the writing you'd get in a throwaway episode, not one of the ones where you're supposed to put your time and effort into. I mean, it also feels like Corey Powell didn't really edit even the script. Speaking of the Rainbow Key chest thing, this was really a bad way to test Rainbow's loyalty, which sort of also carries over to the moral in the episode. I mean, it doesn't help that her choices in the end have absolutely no weight, seeing as how Rainbow would have won either way if she went with the Wonderbolts or her town. It wouldn't matter. I mean, this doesn't feel like a situation that you'd get invested into. I mean, doesn't carry anything emotionally. And this also just shows how pointless the Wonderbolt's characterization was, again. So yeah, this episode really didn't do anything right. From the characters, to the story, to how stupid and repetitive the dialogue is, to the derpy fan pandering, the moral, to everything is all complete shit. And I just can't take this episode anymore. Please, I don't want to go back to this episode again. So, that's all I can say now. Thanks for watching, and if you've stuck with me through this, thank you. And stay tuned for my last review of this MLP Reviewing Marathon, where I think things will get even messier. Well, later.